I'm Terri with Prepped and Polished in South Natick, Massachusetts. Thanks for joining us today. For many of my students, the most difficult part of writing the SAT essay is getting started. The task seems daunting. To read a text, typically a speech or an editorial, and then in 50 minutes to write an analysis of how an author builds an argument to persuade his or her audience. And the student doesn't know what author he or she is going to get. It could be John F. Kennedy, it could be Helen Keller, it could be Robert Redford or Alexander the Great. Today, I'm going to show you a concrete strategy called SOAPSTone that will help you to understand the source text and to clarify and organize your thoughts prior to writing. Because without a strategy, most students, under a time constraint, will simply begin to write and the essay will be disorganized. SOAPSTone is an acronym for a series of questions that students should ask and answer as they read the source text and begin to plan their essays. SOAPSTone will also help to identify the central theme of the essay and the supporting details. So let me give you a quick overview of the acronym SOAPSTone, and then I'll break it down for you. SOAPSTone. So S stands for speaker, O is for occasion, A is for audience, P is for purpose, S is for subject, and T is for tone, and it's called a SOAPSTone strategy. Let me show you how to use that to write an effective SAT essay. Before I start with the letter S, I want to mention that I'm going to be using a 1962 speech given by then President John F. Kennedy to help illustrate SOAPSTone more clearly. Kennedy was building an argument to expand and move forward with the United States space program. And I think you'll find this helpful to clarify SOAPSTone. You might get a speech like this on your SAT essay. Let's take a look. So S is for who is the speaker, who is speaking or writing. And here's some questions to ask yourself as you read the source text. What is the author's motivation? And this one's very important. What credentials does this person have to make his text or speech believable? And here's an example from the speech I mentioned. John F. Kennedy, President of the United States, gave a speech in 1962 at Rice University in Houston, and he thought that being the president would carry weight so people will listen. He mentioned his presidency several times during the speech to keep that authority in the minds of his listeners. He said, during my incumbency in the office of the presidency, he kept repeating that so his ideas would carry weight. The letter O in SOAPSTone is for occasion, the time and place of the piece. Let me show you some questions and considerations that you can ask yourself as you read the source text. So O, of course, is for what is the occasion, the time and place of the piece, but really the context or reason that prompted or required the speech or text. And you should ask yourself, what is the larger occasion, which is really the historical context. You know, it's ideas, attitudes, emotions concerning a broad issue. And then there's the more immediate occasion, the specific event or situation that catches the writer's attention and triggers a response. And asking yourself these questions will help you to understand why the author uses a certain tone and some of his or her motivations. For example, in JFK's 1962 speech, he was at Rice University in Houston, he wanted to promote and rouse support for the United States' new space program. And he said, I regard the decision to shift our efforts in space from low to high gear as among the most important decisions made. The letter A in SOAPSTone is for intended audience. And here are some questions that you should ask yourself as you read the source text. You want to consider who the audience is and how that affected how the author built his or her argument. What do you know about the audience? Is it one person or a specific group? What is the relationship between the speaker or author and the intended audience? And what values or prior ideas might the audience have? Kennedy's speech is a perfect example. In his 1962 speech, he mentions both Rice University and Houston, making references that would be significant to his audience there. He knows they care about the university and the city, and he knows that his audience values the community, education, and science. So he appeals to the audience in these ways. And here's 2 quotes from his speech. Houston, your city of Houston, with its manned spacecraft center, will become the heart of a large scientific and engineering community. And he also said technical institutions such as Rice will reap the harvest of these gains. He's trying to show that the city, state, and region will flourish if the space race is entered into. The letter P in SOAPSTone is for purpose. What is the author's purpose? The reason behind the text, the author's goal. Let's take a look at some questions and considerations. So as I said, P is for purpose. It's the author's goal. So you want to consider the purpose of the text to evaluate the author's argument and its logic. What did the author hope to accomplish by this expression of opinion? You want to determine, is it an attack, defense, persuasion, praise, or blame? Or is its goal to teach or something else? All of these things are important as you read the source text. In JFK's speech in 1962, his purpose was to gain support and excitement for the mission to put man on the moon. He said, "We set sail on this new sea because there is new knowledge to be gained and new rights to be won for the progress of all people." He specifically came to Houston to get the locals on board. He knew they would have a personal stake. This S in SOAPSTone is for subject. What is the main idea? And students should have to state that in just a few words. You should be able to pick out the subject quickly. So you want to ask yourself, what is the topic or main idea? What is the author's main point? And what are some of the lines of reasoning used? And for example, here's a quote again from JFK's speech. "Putting a man on the moon will not only be positive for the local community, but for America. Americans do not shy away from a challenge." That was his whole main point and line of reasoning. So the T in SOAPSTone is for tone, the attitude of the writer. And, the ability to manage tone well is the mark of a sophisticated writer. As you read the source text, you want to consider choice of words, sentence construction, imagery, such as metaphors, similes, or other types of figurative language. And how did the author's tone enhance the effectiveness of the piece? In JFK's speech, his tone was inspiring and determined. He said, "We choose to go to the moon." He didn't just say, "We want to go to the moon," we choose to. And his words are infused with an adventuresome spirit, like New Frontier. He uses the metaphor of space as the ocean. "We set sail on this new sea." So you can see that planning is key. Most students don't realize that they can spend as much as 18 minutes planning the essay. SOAPSTone will enable you to start the writing process and then further analyze the text for evidence, reasoning and logic, and persuasive and stylistic elements. Although the SAT essay is optional, now that you know how to prepare, I say take the initiative and go for it. If you enjoyed these tips today, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions or you want more in-depth tutoring, either online or in person, simply email info@preppedandpolished.com and we'll be glad to help you. Good luck.